You are here?
Nice. Good to hear from you, Mike.
Okay, so
Fun background, Quentin.
Oh, I use this for my presentation. And yeah, kind of a nice background too.
Fun.
Erica, do you have any queries or anything, or are you just hanging out?
Someone said I was welcome, so I just.
Oh, you are, of course. No, of course you are.
Yeah.
You are welcome. Absolutely.
I'm fascinated by how this project works, so I just want to listen.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Cool. That's wonderful.
Right,
FYI, I have to go at 1 because I have a call.
Okay, do you have anything you
All
want
right,
to raise,
then.
Kate, in terms of management?
No.
I wanna-
I think you can tell I'm like getting busier and busier. Like my
How's it
cases
going?
have just been exploding. I got like really urgent cases in the last week.
Kate, do you see anything that we could do that would help with those cases?
My cases?
Yeah, no, I mean, are there tools that would be helpful for someone in your situation with your cases that are not things we're working on?
I don't know. Everything's just so slow with technology, with everything's so much slower, and it's such a pain to get documents from the clients, and even the good ones, if I need documents, they're not good at taking good pictures, and it's such a pain. And then I've had to meet a few clients in person because I've needed better documents than they can get to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, that's very vague, and that was actually when I convinced myself I got COVID, was right after I met that client in person. And I was like, great, I probably got it doing the thing we're forbidden from doing right now.
Sure.
Is there
secretly meeting a client out on the street in front of her house?
Kate, are they using the scan? I mean, are they just taking pictures with their phones, or are they using a scanning app? Do you know?
But they're just not very good at clients just aren't very good at sending good pictures.
Sure.
But
I mean,
better
it's hard.
clients is what you're asking us for.
Yes.
David, can we do that or?
Yeah, can you get me clients more familiar with tech?
We go to a mobile tech, like a van, that goes around neighborhoods.
I know.
Well, if there was an app that knew.
If there was a van, you could just take paper from them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, if the courts could be better at not losing everything. I mean, every single thing I file takes multiple follow-up phone calls to get them to me to be have you put it in the file? And then yes, and then it's not in the file at the hearing.
You make your robot that calls people.
Yeah, I have an intern that is
the file.
That's the intern's job, Michelle.
That's basically been my undergraduate intern's job this summer.
Human robot.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, I'm very aware of not overloading you, Kate, especially in the role of SME. So just keep checking in and letting us know, if something's going to be too much for you to take on.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to bring something up that is Kate-specific, Kate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if the court is going to go ahead and link the 209A, that it sounds like they also are interested in the 258E. So it might make sense for us to think about how we would structure transferring what we've learned from the 209A to the 258E. There is some form overlap, right?
Yeah, a lot of the forms do overlap. I think the plaintiff and defendant information forms are identical. It's always going to be fewer forms for the 258E. I'm trying to think. I haven't done a lot with them. You do a different complaint, a different affidavit, meeting a different legal standard. So we really couldn't copy and paste the interview. Never child support, never have to do the affidavit of care, never have to do any of the child related forms.
So it's those first 2 pages plus the affidavit then that are really the difference?
Yeah, the complaint and the affidavit are going to be the big different things. In the affidavit, I feel like it's a more complicated affidavit than the 209A affidavit because
Caroline is agreeing.
There's a couple different standards. There's a few options for the standard that people can check, and they're pretty different standards. You can either select the other side has committed one of certain enumerated crimes, one single sexual assault, Meeting the criminal statute, and there's like a bunch of criminal statutes. Or if you don't meet the single enumerated crime, you have to show 3 different individual instances that meet the definition of like harassment. So I think it would take a little bit more, even more thought than went into the 209A affidavit, just because you've got to kind of figure out a way of dealing with the 2 separate legal standards.
And you might want to collect as much as you can, because if somebody describes a sexual assault and it doesn't meet the standards, then maybe you can meet the other 3 incidents. So I think it's you really have to be thoughtful about the questions you ask, how you pull that information out.
Yeah.
Do you know attorneys who do 258E?
Victim Rights Law Center does a lot. I've done, I think, 1.
Right.
And then like did stuff as a law student, like however long ago that was. But like
So
I've done 1 since in the last like
talk
year.
To somebody from there.
Yeah, there's a few that have been kind of aware of this project and have answered questions like on a few things. But it's more used for sexual assault than DV.
Sure. Yeah, I think
we should try to.
it makes sense to find somebody who does those cases, and the best way to build those affidavits is you have a conversation with the attorney who talks to the survivor or victim, and you almost record the conversation, and that helps you build the questions that we would ask.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to do it word for word, but that is very helpful when you're trying to build the affidavit.
If you could get someone from VR Victim Rights Law Center involved, I mean, they only do work with sexual assault victims, so they would be, very familiar with asking those questions in a way that might be different than just more straight up DV like I do. I mean, obviously there's overlap, but
some other CLAVIC attorneys.
So VRLC has CLAVIC attorneys, and I think a lot of the sexual, I think part of the reason I don't get sexual assault cases even though I do CLAVIC general is because they're getting funneled to VRLC, and they're statewide. So I think that might be true kind of across the state, that a lot of those cases are just getting funneled to them as opposed to other CLAVIC programs.
Would those just be the sexual assault, or would those be the 3 harassment incidences? I mean, what happens to the people who don't fit the sexual assault criteria?
So that's that was the one I've done was kind of more of a workplace, workplace.
So what I'm saying is
coworker keeps assaulting me at work, physically assaulting me at work. So I've done that.
Who could we find who might do because victim rights is just going to be doing a sexual assault thing.
Right. So they might still be doing the 3 incident standard for things that don't rise to one of those criminal statutes. And I interned there in law school, so I remember some of that for somebody keeps groping someone that might not fit the single incident, but so you're doing the 3 incidents under that.
Yeah.
So they would have some, probably a lot of familiarity with that, but non-sexual assault, I don't know who does a lot of those. They might, like I said, I've had 1 under CLAVIC, you might get here and there under the different CLAVIC programs. I just don't think those cases are probably getting a ton of, not getting a lot of attorney representation probably.
No. Do you think Jamie would be able to identify some, because in a way, you want to try and reach those people because they're having the least help,
Right. I would say Rochelle more than Jamie, because Rochelle, I feel does that side. Rochelle might have a little more idea than Jamie of who in CLAVIC is handling
who in CLAVIC, but I'm thinking Jamie might know who across the board has done 250, who might be.
Yeah.
Ask both of them. I mean,
ask them both. No reason not to.
Yeah. So an action point
250 can be a mess.
Yeah.
You get the neighbor. I mean, I've seen plenty of the hearings because they're in the same session as 209As, and it's some of them are just. There's a reason judges don't like them.
When the ones you've seen, if they had attorneys, or they've mostly been self-represented?
Mostly self-represented. Same with 209A though.
Court service centers. That would be another place.
That's a good point. Yeah, they might more than anyone do those actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's a lot of neighbor disputes, my neighbor.
Right, because people don't know where to go. They don't know. They need something, and they don't know what to do. And people are oh, try this.
Yeah.
Kate, sorry, I'm just aware that you have to jump off for your meeting now. And I want to make an action point for this.
Okay, so we'll identify. So you helped us give us some context, which is important.
Okay,
So-
yeah. Oh, I missed.
So what are we
Gotta
going
go.
to? Okay, Kate.
Kate's gonna get to her
if it's
meeting.
anything. Yeah.
And I have a voicemail from the attorney I'm supposed to be talking to. Maybe he's saying it's canceled and I'll be back in a second. All right. All right. If it's true, if that's what it is, I'll be back, but I gotta go.
All right.
Bye.
So what are we going to do with regards to the 250AE?
So I feel like we should assign the complaint. That could easily be assigned to some folks to do.
Okay.
It's just at least start working up the form.
In the same
And then we could-
process that we did the sorry to interrupt you. In the same process that we did the 209A, where we did separate interviews for each, and then
I think we
sticking
could
it together, or
yeah. I think we could deal with the separates now. I don't know, Quentin. You would have a much better insight on this.
having stitched it. What do you think?
I mean, it worked well, especially because we're trying to get up something really quickly.
Right.
I think what I would say we could add in earlier is have we come up with some like better code style guidelines maybe about consistency with how we do different things. That would probably help.
That is on the agenda for today. So
Like variable names, kind of. and
Things like
file
variable names, making them the same. So it might just be that we have that team meet more consistently, whoever's working the
Also-
different forms to
also
sync
like-
up.
Also, like what blocks to include so that it'll mesh together better, and like in what ways to assign various values, etc.
Yeah, those are exactly the kind of things that I meant. Yep. So I think that would probably be a little bit more collaborative early on, where it was like for the 209A, we did everyone worked on their separate piece, and then we had it stitched together at the end, and we didn't do the collaboration until we were at the editing stage. I would say have some collaboration for making sure that the coding style of each form is fairly similar.
Right. So there's less work to do at the end.
Yeah, I mean, we worked around it, so it didn't like actually. Yeah, it would be a lot faster to develop if they all follow the same style for how questions were asked. And yep, we didn't redo stuff, but it would just be easier to understand what's going on in the interview if it's all one style.
So basically, we haven't started the coding style guide. Am I correct in saying that?
that's correct, I believe.
Do we want to?
We're going to talk about it today.
Do we want to set up a time to meet about that? Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Well, so why don't we talk about as we're getting into that, we were going to talk about the style guide that had been worked on last week already. And coding was going to be a part of that for the follow-up. So why don't we just put a pin in this and say we'll put it at the end of that discussion.
Okay. Okay, got it. So 258E, what was the action point there?
We're going
We're
to
gonna
try
get-
and track down an SME, I think. Various
Yeah.
SMEs.
Various SMEs, we can assign some folks to work on the complaint because they can start working on that without having to really talk much
And
with
that would be
anyone.
separate.
And then eventually we're going to want someone to deal with the affidavit, but that's going to be the person who's going to really have to interface deeply with the SMEs. So I think we can wait on that.
Okay. And the complaint.
I also want,
Sorry. You
I
also
was just going to say, I also want to be conscious of the fact that so like Sinead and Filona are leaving us this week. Many of our other folks will be leaving us in a couple weeks as classes start back up.
And Jody,
So-
what was your timeline looking at just speaking about people leaving?
Yeah, so I'm kind of, I think I have 2 more weeks. My last day is like the 6th of August or the 7th, that Friday, Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, 7th.
But, you know, I don't have like a hard stop. You know, I'm not working I'm not working. So, you know, if there's things that I still need to do to help out, I'm happy to keep helping.
Can you schedule a meeting with me so we can finalize that Trello thing?
Yeah.
Jody,
Tuesday?
you don't need some extra credits next semester, do you?
I would always use some extra credit. I just don't know if unless I could petition to.
I don't want you to overload if you need to overload.
Well, it probably wouldn't be an overload because I'm still technically a part-time evening student. So that means that I'm still 12 hours is like the max I can take. So I'm only at 12 hours, but I'm still not going to be working in the fall. So.
And there's only so much golf you can play, right?
It's so true. I mean, it's going to get cold here, and so yeah.
So if you wanted to continue, I don't want to put you on the spot, but just what I'll do is I'll reference back my earlier conversation before Quentin joined when we were having the stand up, which is that we are looking for vehicles for people to continue working and to receive credit during the semester.
Yeah. So
Sign me up.
Could I was thinking about that when you said that though. Could I still continue in like the capacity that I'm in, or would I have to be like coding stuff?
You could continue.
Sure.
So the problem is the main difference would be the amount of time you'd be able to use because of how many credits we could give.
Okay.
But the vehicle we're looking at right now is the lab class, which operates very much like this, except that generally we have different clients come in and then we'll work on a project with those clients.
Okay.
So the main difference would be that it would be time delineated to a much smaller amount of time, equivalent with the credits. And you'd probably get some more face time with Quentin and I as far as superstructure.
Does the law school have work?
I should take one of these classes.
That's what I want to take the class as well, guys. Eric's keen too. Sign us up.
Yeah.
I am planning
What
to
are
put
the
all of my
prerequisites?
Be a law student.
I will waive all the
Suffolk.
I will waive the prerequisites for the lab class for anyone who's already part of the project, because they've already proved their ability to work in it.
But I think a prerequisite is being a law student, though, right?
Yeah, although I am
Michelle and I are out.
for my coding the law class, I am playing with I'm definitely going to put all my materials online, but I'm playing with the idea of letting people take the class just alongside. Yeah, audit class.
I second that. Let's do it.
So, David, does the law school have work study program? Do they do work study at law school?
We do work study. Some people are already receiving work study for their summer work, and I'm already exploring it for the fall, but I don't think it's going to work out actually.
Oh, well, if you have work study students that you can't use.
No, that's not the problem. The problem is it's the other problem.
You don't have enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
My salary is just too big. They can't afford work.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so I think that how many hours, just roughly speaking, if you've got 2 credits, David, what kind of hours would it?
Roughly 7 hours a week. So
Okay.
that's only like 20% time.
Okay.
But we might
be
be
looking into more. Yeah.
Yeah, there might be other, and David and I are both, your other classes, 3 credits.
Other class is actually only 2 credits actually.
Oh, okay.
But then that wouldn't be as much work on this project. That would be most work on the class with final project that could be work on this.
Okay. Okay.
I'm teaching a 3 credit class where I think 60% of the grade is a final project. So we were just talking about that. I think that would be a fair game for people to use the assembly line as their final project. But there's other content to the class, obviously. It's actually a small firm class, so it's a little different.
You guys have such cool classes in your law school. It's really, we had just like contract and torts.
You don't have any seminars
those
at all?
too.
No,
Yeah, we have those too.
We do have
I
that.
took law and literature, and we read like
So
Edgar
cool.
Allan Poe, and that was my final year, I think.
Oh my God. We had a jurisprudence class where, I can't say we're recording. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I think we'll mention that again on the meeting again tomorrow, just people who want to stay on. And then
My
Jody.
point, however, in raising it was that when we're thinking about transitioning folks to new jobs, what forms next to work on, we want to think about when they disappear.
Yeah.
And whether or not they'll continue.
Right.
Right. Okay.
We
So,
probably want to create some kind of format for them to write documentation that's not just the testing. So I was thinking about it afterwards, things about like what decisions, like to go through page by page and write down what decisions were made on that page and why they were made that way. Right.
Yeah,
It'll be hard
something
for
to give
us
some
to,
context.
yeah. I think like a closing memo kind of format might be familiar to them.
The good closing memo is it's a format
Transfer
that law
memo.
students will understand, Michelle.
yeah. So,
But I
yeah.
think for new folks coming on, like I like the idea, like you actually already have this running book concept, right, David? I think that's a good one for us to encourage people to use.
Changelog.
Changelog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we is that started somewhere?
No, but it's a
No.
style that we could ask people
We
to
can implement it.
We
And
they
in
can
fact,
do it
actually
in
in
the
the lab,
README.
in the lab course,
Yeah, the
that's
README is a
actually
good
part of
place
what
for
we
it to
do.
go.
Oh yeah.
So,
The README
So-
could be that document because they can edit
Yeah.
that right in the playground.
That's the MD you're talking about? The MD document?
README.md. Yep.
yeah.
The only thing I wonder is just keeping in like how shy some students can be sometimes. They might prefer something
Yeah, it
that
might be too
doesn't
public.
have to be shared on a
Okay. Sure.
repository. But
Yeah,
it's
especially when they're starting
it
out on
is
the
an idea,
project,
though.
right? Because you know, you've seen like over the last month or 2 months, people becoming more confident. But when you first join this project, that seems like everybody knows what they're doing, and even though we don't always, it can be pretty
Yeah.
intimidating, I think. And also a point
Also,
that sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
Just making sure that people have access to kind of like all the documents that they need was something that was raised. So when we're doing this, to try and identify all the documentation that you'll need in kind of like an onboarding package.
I was going to ask, do we
started
still
that,
have,
didn't you?
do we still have Tyler doing onboarding, or did we lose him?
No, he's still here.
Okay.
Have we checked in with him recently on, because I see like on the volunteer board, I see like lots of names that I don't recognize that I've never seen. Can we figure out what's going on with them? and
Yeah.
stuff?
I'll check in with Tyler.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Jody.
Some of them are people who were pre-big start.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So and then Jody, can you just message me when you're free tomorrow or Wednesday, and we can go through that thing, because I think that's going to become important as we kind of move away from the kind of steady stream of volunteers that we have at the moment, or team members that we have at the moment. I think it's going to be quite important to get that up and running so that people who aren't, full-time team members will be able to check in a lot easier.
Yes. I agree.
And we should also get a poll from those folks who are not Suffolk related,
Yeah.
many of whom are on this call, as to what I know I've asked you before to think about what is your exit strategy. We just sort of need to know what that is.
So people on this call.
Yes, or any folks who are also not students who what do people think their availability is actually going to be past the summer?
Okay. Got it. Okay. Great. What else are we looking at here today? Caroline raised something in the Slack about automated response to the feedback email. Do we want to quickly speak about that?
Okay, so when people send feedback now out in the world, do they get it? What do they get? What do they see after they send feedback? Is it a web page or an email, or what do they?
It's a Google form.
It's a Google form. So have you tried it, Caroline? I think you have.
I've done it ages ago, and I just can't remember. Because what I'm thinking about, this is something, Michelle, that you brought up. So the feedback is a Google. What I'm concerned about is that we not answer people's legal questions, because we did get one in over the weekend, didn't we? But that people know, is there something like go to Mass Legal Help, go to the Legal Resource Finder, go somewhere? Do we have that in that response? Okay, that was my question.
We even have, do you need other help or more help? And it's on the page when you get there, and then if you click that you want, like that wasn't enough help, then they are listed again on that page. So
it's actually on the form itself before you fill it out. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, they're on the form before you fill it out, and if you ask for other help, then you see those again.
We do have to think of like a protocol. Actually, this reminded me. I wanted to make sure, there's nothing we can do about it, but someone submitted 2 issues that are really just asking for help.
Yeah.
Is that what prompted you, Caroline? So
yeah,
my strategy is to edit the issue and then remove identifying information. But I didn't do that with this one yet, because I knew we were going to have our meeting.
So one idea before we remove it, I'm thinking, David, doesn't it make sense, since you're not going to be, You're not looking
There's no
for them.
name in it,
But
though,
these
is
are the
there?
kinds of things you can contribute to the project that you're working on because it's people's real language.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Do we make it clear enough that it's being used that way?
Wait, I mean, if they ask questions?
Yeah, we know people are gonna tell us their legal problems in some of the feedbacks. So we don't want to hold on to that, but it does seem to me that that's more data for your project.
Yeah,
Your
I think it
learning
might be
plans
more. It
or-
might be more overhead than we want to deal with,
Okay.
as to having to. Then we have to get them to. We have to make some type of terms that makes it clear that we keep it and what we do with it.
I see what you're saying. Gotcha.
So I'm going to go ahead and just delete the information in it now, right? I can't delete the issue, but I can overwrite the text, and that seems to make it gone. There's no history for what the issue was before.
There is history for edited issues, but you can delete the historical item.
Yeah, you have to. There's a thing. You have
Okay.
to do. There's a link somewhere.
I've done it before. If you want, I can do it, or I can show people how to do it.
Kate's back.
Why don't I do this?
What happened? Oh, nope.
Is that what you were thinking, Michelle?
Removing sensitive
Where
data.
do you see the history? I can see the history when I change the issue title.
No, removing data from a sensitive repository is a different thing. So in the top, okay.
I can share it now.
Oh, sure.
This might be good for other people because whoever notices it should probably do it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's only comments, but I think the main thing has. So in the ... right, it says, oh, the main one doesn't have. Oh, that's awesome. No, I guess it's just the comments that have the history. I know something does have like editing history. So, but if it's not in the comments, so
When I
if you press
change
the ... maybe it's a setting on the repository. Well,
You're still in my ears.
All right,
I'm just getting a
whatever.
drink.
So when I change this, then
well,
there's history
then it's
for that.
shown. No,
That might
but
be
there
what you
is
were-
specific. Nope. It's a thing that says this was edited. Click on edited by Nonprofit Techie. There we go.
Okay.
Click on that.
We've got such
Oh,
a
you're
cool
right. I
name.
can still
So
see
now
it.
you can go there and click on that, and I believe you can delete it.
Okay, I'm gonna just pause my share because this is recorded and it was someone's.
Yep.
Oh, good idea.
There we go. So that's the history.
Okay, yeah, it's still there.
I
Okay,
knew I
this
hadn't
is
gone
good to
crazy.
know. This is not very discoverable, but yep, now I see the delete option.
Yeah.
So I can share this again actually, because it's off page. So yep, I can delete it from there. Okay, so we should actually go through and do that for some other issues. I think maybe we need a new label for that.
What, like user request or something like that?
I think. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking like that way we could periodically check and make sure there's no history stored with those.
Right.
Most of them, this one actually had quite a lot of information in it. Most of them haven't had anywhere near as much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just had a
I'll
lot.
think of that. I won't
Got
take
that
up
email.
everyone's time.
Sure.
Okay. So what happens? Sorry, just to go back to the question, what actually happens when they just submit a Google form, they don't get any response?
I wonder if we need to add. I don't know if I'm added or not, but like we cannot respond to these.
Like a comment at the last.
I think people will still put their information there. Not at the end. I think at the very beginning they'll still put their information there, but there might be more
Tim
people who
Ferriss,
understand. I don't
where
know.
he's like, Tim Ferriss is like, I can't respond to 1 million emails a day. You're just like, okay.
Well, here's the thing, like, I don't know, I think about, like, if I give my feedback, like if I submit something and I give my feedback on something, I don't necessarily expect a response.
But some people are writing in as if they're expecting a response.
they're asking
they're not.
And it might help reduce confusion. But the other thing is, it's not, we can't respond. We don't know any of their information. Like it's not just that we don't want to, it's that we don't have their information, so we can't.
You want to avoid making them put their email in the information though.
Yeah.
There is no
We don't
email.
wanna let
There's
them
no
do that.
question.
No, in the narrative. I want to do a narrative.
Oh,
You
I see what you're saying.
wanna
That would be
avoid
even
the
worse. You're right.
framing such that they then say, oh, I know you can't reach me. Here's my info. You just want to be careful with the framing is all I'm saying.
Oh, I see.
I think that the
Yeah.
reality is people mostly understand how these work.
Yeah.
And they just hope
Yeah.
that we're going to change our mind.
Yeah.
Because people are
That
very
sucks.
persistent when they need
Yeah.
help. And there's, and I
Which is great.
admire that.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, like if we're giving them, maybe we just need to clarify, like, I feel like we already do clarify pretty well. Like, this is just feedback for the form and for the, the technology. This is
There,
not
when you're desperate,
advice.
I think
And-
when you're, yeah.
Yeah.
People are going to find way. If we didn't have any form, we would be getting phone calls. Actually, it's probably good for David and I that we're not in the office, because we'd be getting voicemails that said, "Hey, how do you help me with this? I figured out from tracking through multiple hoops that this is associated with your organization. I'm going to figure out how to call you."
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, you're right.
And people mostly, I think, know that it's not a reasonable thing for us to expect to respond, but
Yeah.
they're going to still try to get help.
Yep. That is true. Okay.
So I think that, Michelle, your idea of maybe including some language at the top of that feedback form is a good one. What that language should take, maybe we can discuss that. Do we want to just drop something up with you now? It's going to be one sentence.
We have something on mass legal help.
Caroline, could you please forward that to me, and then I'll include that in the feedback form.
Yeah.
Okay, done. Okay, so I'm making a note to myself to do that. Okay. So then the other thing we wanted to talk about was documentation, so style guides.
Yeah.
Style guides. So Jody and Caroline met last week. Do you want to quickly speak about what kind of...
Caroline, do you just want to pull up we kind of took what Quentin had started, and Caroline kind of paced that side by side with the little bit that she had done already, and we sort of just kind of built off of that. Caroline really did it. I was just kind of like moral support. So
It was good.
Caroline gets the credit.
Well, it's only started, but let me see if I can figure out where I put it. It's I know where it is, but I just have to get there. Except there. Okay, let's try it this way. Yeah, I mean, when you start writing this stuff, you kind of go, just goes, there's lots. But the hard thing was working on the structure. Here, should I just put the URL in the chat for the Zoom? Can I do that?
Yeah, or you could
That
share your
works.
screen.
Okay,
Or you could do both.
I'll do both. Here's chat, maybe. Okay, here's the article. Okay.
Okay.
And share my screen. Where is it when you let you do your whole desktop? It doesn't. It just says screen.
Yeah, that's the whole desktop.
Oh, show all windows. That's what I want. Okay.
Yeah.
Share.
Okay.
Oh, now do you see it? Do you see the
Yeah.
language
Yes.
readability thing?
Yes.
Okay. So here, I love this outline. So I'm talking about the difference between formatting, and language and style gets a bit iffy.
Right.
And then vocabulary.
Overlap.
On the left is the outline, so you can click on any of those and go to that section.
Sorry, I was saying, does it overlap the language and style?
Yes, there is some overlap. Yeah,
Okay.
there is some overlapping. So for a lot of it is like what headings should look like, and then how you use headings. So those are, you format headings in a certain way. All our questions are heading to, and on the right, we'll get rid of this on the right, but on the right was the stuff that Quentin had in his. So I wanted to make sure that we included that. We didn't lose the
Right.
ideas, so we put them in. And then I also thought in some of these places, whether we want to cite good, like Chicago Manual of Style or Associated, other sort of credible style guides. And Maeve, you and I started off looking at UK.gov.
Yeah.
Which is very good, but the way UK.gov is organized is alphabetical. So you can search it, but you have to know what word
Yeah, like you couldn't just, like if you were picking up this project, you couldn't just like read through a style guide of like, a few pages and get a sense of like what to do. Nobody's going to go through and read that whole entire index of like A through Z.
Right.
You're not going to go read that like a book. So
yeah, I think
there are some things that we might be able to do to make it more digestible that I have ideas on, but I don't know if now is the time to bring that up.
So, well, I mean, the thing is, it's what I like is, I thought I put the links in here. I don't know where I put it, but UK.gov is basically their style guide is very, very good. It's just to make it useful isn't great. But then MailChimp has a very good way of organizing it. So when you're talking about people, let me see if I can pull that up.
I found, you know what, Caroline, I made a list of all the links that we looked at. So I'll just paste all those in the chat for everybody.
Okay. Because I like that way. There is, and the thing what you can do with the Google Doc, of course, is that you can, I think we talk about here. Oh yeah, so bullet or number list. So it's like how you, I don't know that there's much to do with styling bullets or number lists, but then you can you should be able to go down to the bullet list. This is in language and style.
The links didn't work. Sorry.
Oh.
If you just put it in Slack, it should work.
Please. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Okay.
But I was looking at
what channel are you going to put it? Usability?
UX.
Admin.
UX is a good place, I think.
UX is a really good
style
place.
guide stump there, or whatever it's called, stub.
UX.
Oh, that's where that freaking thing is.
Well, actually, the reason he couldn't find it, put it in the documentation. I mean, in the documentation channel over here.
Oh, I did. Oh,
yeah, I found it there, and I thought, oh, that's where it was. Okay, so here, this one.
Eric, why is your picture sign here sign? What's that about? I mean, it looks cool, but
what'd you say?
No reason. Hipster thing.
Eric's photo is a little sign here.
It's from a form that I'm very familiar with.
Okay.
Look at it now. Where is he? I'm not gonna waste your time.
There, it's right there. Oh, that's what we were laughing.
There.
Okay, where is the channel? You see there?
Where is Eric? Oh, here. Oh, sign here. Oh, that one. Yeah.
So MailChimp was the favorite one.
Well, it's a combination. So MailChimp, I like MailChimp because this helps you think about I'm not sure that we definitely aren't going to use all of these, but I like the idea of writing about people, voice, and that's a good way to explain things to people when they're looking at the style guide. I don't think that we would necessarily use these headings, but I think that that's a helpful way to talk about it. But we'd have to, I'm sort of thinking, let's get everything out there and then figure out how we would organize it.
Yeah.
I agree. The only thing is sometimes like having the table of contents can be like the outline for what you're going to write about eventually.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that's definitely, so that's why I think we're working with these too.
I would also say, like, if you do it as an iterative process, so if you develop like a section and you have basically what you want in there, maybe sometimes go to that section and do the refining work, right? So I don't know, but
you mean like an outline? So this is in general what we want here, and then we go back and put the little bitty bits in. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like don't leave it all till the end type of thing, right? Like do complete a section, right?
Oh, I just put stuff in there as I.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's real. I think that's sort of how people write. Some people. I like, in general, like when we're doing articles for Mass Legal Help, I always have people do an outline because we know what the outline is. But I think in this case, I'm not sure. I've never done it.
Just if we end up just having the outline, will that be enough for us to understand what's going on?
Oh no, there's a lot more.
In case you have to stop.
We're definitely not just having it.
So in case you get called away, it would be nice if you if you stop, sometimes paused and like filled in part of the outline so that we don't
Right.
like
No, we've
completely
already,
lose
we're
out.
already,
Okay.
we're already doing that, Michelle.
Yeah.
And in a
Oh,
way,
okay, that's fine. I
Yeah, I mean,
misunderstood.
because I'm thinking of all these
Carry
specific
on. Yep.
things, and then I'm trying to figure out is where does that specific thing fit into our
Right.
outline, or do
Right.
we
Sure,
have to
got it.
start another?
Got
You
it.
know, do we have to start something else? So, this language and style. I mean, this is why I start off with language and style, because I'm thinking, you know, for example, bulleted lists is there's a place for. I mean, there's a reason you would use a bulleted list. But then when you use a bulleted list, what context, like the difference between bulleted lists and numbered lists. But then when you do bulleted lists, there's a format to bulleted lists. So you would do your whole list, and then the second to last, and then at the end of every item in the list, you put a comma. And then
Right.
at the last, second to last item, you put either and or. So there's things like that, you know, those are very specific things. And then you've got these broad things like keep text short in general, right?
I'm going to avoid whether or not we get into a debate about comma or semicolon.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
the readability,
it's a
right?
readability thing. People, when people,
I just
Oh,
said
no
I said I'm going to avoid it.
semicolon.
I was throwing that out there.
It was like
Okay.
catnip there, David.
Because there is confusion if you have commas internal.
yes, there is. There is.
I think it was something to do with the screen reader, because just from my personal style, I always actually use semicolons. And then Caroline, you mentioned something about screen readers not being able to, or getting confused by that, or something to that effect. But yeah, we avoid this conversation for now.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
But anyway, we've made some progress on this.
Okay. So the other guides that we wanted to do. Sorry, Caroline, did I cut you off there?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's where we are.
I have a question.
Yes.
How much of this is like how to write English good generally?
Right,
And
English
how
good.
how much of it is specifically related to writing language in DocAssemble?
Well, it's not about DocAssemble.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
It's about writing for a pro se.
It's not the code. I realize it's not the
Wait. One person at a time. Okay.
Me first. I want to just know if I can stop sharing.
Yes, you can stop sharing, I'm sure. Okay. Right. So who has an answer for Eric? Quentin?
I was going to say, I think it's,
Now no
we have
one.
different audiences when we write, don't we? So
Yeah.
an academic audience, you're going to not do what we're doing and try to use a 6th grade reading level. Although maybe you should, but it might not get published, unfortunately.
I think you should.
And also, it's also in mind with screen readers for like anyone that's blind that's having the screen read to them. We have to write in a certain way so that it will make sense to like a screen reader tool.
So I think,
Certainly.
yeah, the one thing is
Yeah.
blind or visually impaired. The other thing is also people who might not be able to, maybe illiterate or, not strong with reading, they can then hear it. And in order to be able to hear it in a kind of like nice way that's comprehensible, is that a word? Comprehend? You can comprehend it, is certain punctuation. As I said, like the semicolons might not work, or the full stops might not work. So it's those two things to take into mind. But I think that the style guide is going to encompass how to write well for different audiences, specifically on this project. We've got primarily, I think it's low-level literacy users. But then, for example, Sinead and Fanola's form is aimed solely at attorneys. So based on who the audience of your form is, you're going to want to write for that audience. So that's the first aspect. And then kind of also just good readability rules that I've learned so much in the last few months about, like comprehension, like don't have contractions, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's one of the things I really like that I know but wasn't able to articulate is to I think it says write positively. I can't remember what
it said, write positively, yeah.
But essentially, don't say you can't do this without something, right? So you say you can only do this in a certain way. And some of these concepts, we're making it easier for everybody to read. It doesn't matter what your education level is. So, what we were talking about the other day is for attorneys, maybe you can put more questions on one screen because they get impatient going through screens. But in terms of language and readability, you still want to make everything as readable as possible. Just you want to make it easier for people to do this stuff.
And that's what I was saying is like, you know, I spent so long in law school learning how to write in a complicated and confusing manner in order to be able to charge clients a lot because they don't understand what you said. And then I've spent the last 4 or 5 years trying to unlearn all of those kind of bad habits and being able to communicate and with people actually understanding you, which is a huge, huge skill and something that they don't really, and at least in my law school, they didn't teach that. So it's really just good. It's best practices, I think, going forward, but it's also specifically tailored to this project. Does that answer
and
the
I
question?
think we also have so many people in Massachusetts that English is not their first language. So I think that's another reason to stick with that 6th grade kind of reading level. The simpler we can make it for everyone, including people that English is not their first language.
Kristen, where do you think this is also where we should address contingent variables?
I think we have a small section in there. So Caroline, is your goal to like kind of use this as a working document and then put it into the parent one once you figure it out?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So in the bigger document, the one that I had put accidentally
you want to share it, Quentin? Or do you want?
Sure.
Or do you want me to share it? I'm happy to, whatever you
It's
want.
the one that's on the UX channel, but yeah. So just so people know where to link to it, but I'll share it.
Go there.
There is a small section there, and there's a lot of stuff. It's a big.
Yeah.
It's where this should go. So just for people who don't already have the idea, what David's alluding to is what we found out from the translators, which obviously we kind of had already been thinking about a little bit, is how important it is to not put conditional logic in the middle of a sentence, because it makes it very hard to translate. Mm-hmm. The order of verb, noun, pairs, and where the object goes, and whether it's matching a gender, those all vary in different languages.
Right.
So if you write a sentence where you just insert, with, or, like the singular plural version of the word, it may not make sense anymore when it's translated.
Yeah.
And it may be hard for the translator to know what to do with it.
A good example would be for, do you have any children, or which of your children such and such? And if you just put children, no, that wouldn't work.
No, it's a good example.
Well,
I think that is. Yeah.
Which child is
one of the places
yours, or
you should do it.
Yeah.
So
which children have a lawyer, or which child, or that doesn't work either. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You can't use, like, DocAssemble has some really nice language functions, which are great if you're only using English.
Yeah.
Like
and you could there's a way to say, okay, put the word child here if it's one child, put the word children if it's more than one. And we just can't use those. We have to make the whole sentence different.
Yeah.
Have one version of the sentence which is for child, one version of the sentence which is for children.
We should add one of those examples to the wrong way to do things.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who added this. I added that as a comment, but I wasn't sure who would put that in.
I added some examples. I just figured, like, those were the ones at the top of my mind. I wasn't sure if they were completely right, but I figured I'd start with. But I think shows a language issue would be clear. We're pluralizing. Yes, yeah, I think that would be another one. I have run across interviews that are using variables in the way that I see there, which I then, like that interview I started to do final carpentry on, I have to go back and like do if statements or whatever.
And it's one of those things that's hard to unlearn, because like you're programmers, you want to be efficient, but you have to be. You can't
less
be
efficient
if you want to be your translation to work.
I think this is a kind of a sophisticated ask for people who are.
Well, I think if we are teaching people and we teach them the correct way, the way it works, then that is the way they will know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And this is here for us or for teachers in the future who like need to refresh. It's more of a reference document, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But it can also be if someone is really digging into the justification and et cetera, we can point them to this or, whatever.
I guess what I'm thinking is that it's, it would be good. I don't know whether it would go it would sort of go through one of those final steps. you know,
Like a checklist, a review checklist.
get to check.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like, yeah.
Whether it's a carpentry or whether it's a language, readability, something, so that it doesn't hold. I don't know. I just think we should just check for it. And there may be, I mean, I wanted to say this when we were talking about translation before. So when you were talking about keep it at a low reading level, when you translate, you almost automatically increase the reading level by 2 grades. So that's another reason to think about keeping the readability as low as possible. It's less expensive to translate, and it increases the readability, the grade level of reading. But I think this this idea of making the whole sentences conditional is something we probably should go through and check. And then the final thing is there may be some forms, I don't know, that really wouldn't get translated. I mean, for example, probably the attorney forms, right? Anything that's for an attorney, you are not going to be translating because they're going to have to speak English. And at this, anyway, where we are now.
I was going to say, is the language of litigation, is that English, is solely English in the United States or in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
In courts, and yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't think there are any tribunals that use a different language.
Forms are often, if you're Spanish, you get the Spanish form, but you're not allowed to, in the courts, you're not allowed to submit the Spanish form. You submit, and I don't even think you can submit the bilingual form, can you? I think you have to submit the English form.
I think it's okay for the ones that aren't official forms, because I know that the MLRI answer and discovery form for eviction cases, we have bilingual. We submit that as is.
Oh, we do submit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause for a sec and say, is this conversation the one that we want to make an appointment for, that we can like discuss the finer points of style, or is this good to have right now? Just,
do you not want to talk about the language of litigation in the United States?
I actually want to talk about it a lot. I find this very interesting. I'm just going, is this what we want to spend the meeting time on, or do we have other things that we want to make sure we cover before?
I have another question, totally unrelated.
Okay.
Okay, so, but did we want to talk about making an appointment for also these kinds of style, the kinds of style things we're looking at now, like actually making a time, because I know that I forget about stuff unless I put it in my calendar.
Right, so Michelle, I think what you're suggesting is that just like we were going to have like a coding time, we could have like a one for this as well.
Editing
whatever we're calling this.
Just like we were having a language style guide time, we would have a coding style guide and coding conventions time.
I think we had
I
determined we were going to do that for coding, but now you're talking about,
But
so who should be on that call, and we could schedule a time now. That way it happens.
Or who wants to be on
it's something
that
we
call.
can. Well, who wants and who should? They might be.
Yep.
Hopefully they overlap, but if someone really needs to be there, then we can schedule around them.
So is this for the
Let me get my phone out.
the language or the?
For coding, for basically to do what Jody and Caroline did with language, or attempted to do with language, we try to do something similar with coding.
So Quentin?
Yeah.
So I would like to be on that.
Michelle?
Yeah, she said she would like to be on.
Yes.
So that's
that is
two.
what I said.
And this is specifically coding, because remember we were also talking about elements or features,
Right.
which is not the same, right?
It could overlap a bit, but I think you're right. I think everyone should really be part of the features conversation, and then the coding stuff.
Yeah.
So the
might be
coding
harder
stuff, I
for
think,
them.
was
Appointments for all that? Okay.
coding stuff was like naming a file, naming variables,
Where you put your code block.
right? Where
The
you
style
put
of like how
your
you have
block.
questions asked, like how you set things in different code blocks.
Like when you should use lists or when you should whatever, like
Data
how you should
structures,
make
sure.
variables, like when do you need to be flexible versus whatever. I have other questions that are like, when do you need to get when, like how much customization is too much customization?
Maybe because we have Eric on the call, maybe Eric, are there any questions that you had that you were like, I wish there was an answer for this?
Not one burning on the top of, I mean, so many, but
Maybe what we can do is we can actually just put in the call tomorrow. We can say, guys, if if you can think of, if you come up with any questions, just submit them so that.
So I'd like to be on the coding style one too. So let's see what times we're looking at.
What about, and I don't know whether this would be this might be more of a feature than a coding thing, but what about when to use the list collect versus the,
Yep,
I mean, there's three of them, right?
How about
There's
this?
how many of something do you have? And there's, do you have this? Do you have another? I don't know when you want to call that separate.
That's what I think we were calling features, although I see in our style guide, we have it called interview interface elements.
So how about, I've made a thread in assembly line code. Do we want to start adding these items in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's find a time.
Yes, let's find a time.
Opening up calendars.
Oh, got my calendar.
the
I don't need to be on the call though. I don't. I would
If
just be.
you're welcome to.
Oh,
You're
thanks,
welcome
Christine.
to be on the call, but
I'll be very quiet.
so I'm usually, I am available from like 7 a.m. on, but I prefer to start
6:30.
most things at around 11.
Caroline likes 3
because
a.m.
There's other stuff that I like to keep open for that. And then after stand up.
What do we think about from 11 on Thursday?
I can do that.
Just make sure.
You're talking about coding, right?
It won't,
30th. Yeah.
I think it won't give us a lot of time. So if we want to start at like 10 or 10:30, I can also do that. It's just
I can jump on at 11.
It could
do
be
10.
later in the day as well.
I that Thursday morning just looks nice and free. We could do
Nice.
10 to 12 and use what time we have. That way we just at least have that time blocked off.
I'm free
Okay.
from 11, so I'll just jump on when you guys. If you guys just drop the link there, then I'll jump on.
I'll set up a meeting.
Okie dokie, artichoke. Okay.
And Quentin, that worked with you?
I can do that, yes. Yeah, I was just making sure I can.
And then the language guide.
And Caroline wanted to be on that or not?
The coding?
Not on the
No?
coding.
Okay. All
But
right.
the
I'll put the
language,
link
yeah.
in the
But
code
we should
channel.
invite Lily probably.
But answer your,
Lily can't do a Thursday. I mean,
she
she
can't do
invite
Thursdays.
her, but she works
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh,
She
Sure.
can switch
that's
her
a shame.
days,
I don't
though.
know.
It's just her own
I
thing.
could do Friday. I could do the same times on Friday.
Me too.
Should we do
Works for me
Friday? So
too.
is Lily available on Friday?
It's one of her working days.
As far as I know, I was
Oh,
supposed to tell
okay.
you guys last week and the week before they had a power outage in her building, and that's why she didn't join.
Oh.
Is she in South Africa? What's going on?
No, well, they're redoing the whole. I mean, there's like 1 million people live in these apartment buildings, and it's like 90 degrees in Boston, and of course they have no electricity for 2 days at a time. It's horrible.
Welcome to South Africa.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Just so I'm clear, I can, if it's before 11, then I can do any time from 7, up until 12:30. So
Yeah, I think
just
I have
that
earlier
block.
morning things. But yeah.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
thinking 10 to 12 on Friday. Do you guys want to invite Lily, or do you want me to tell her?
we can invite Lily, I think.
Yeah,
You
I'm
have
also
her-
going to put a link in the code channel.
Channel. Good
Okay.
idea.
But someone should reach out to her specifically to say, hey, look at this.
Who's
Yeah,
going to take
okay.
ownership of that?
I can do that.
Okay.
I
thank
can
you,
do
Michelle.
that.
And then the language guide, are we going to meet? I'm happy to meet with you guys as well, and kind of maybe we can keep working on that.
Sure. We haven't set up another time. We can.
The first thing that I want to meet with Jody about is obviously Trello, so that's my priority with Jody. So maybe we can liaise offline about that.
Sure. You can just let me know when you want. I
Um,
mean, I've been.
do we want
thinking-
another one for features? Because that is different. I mean, if we're talking about like shared functionality features.
Maybe the features would come after the coding, because you might,
Sure.
as you're
Cover.
going through coding, you might say, oh, this is really a feature, and then add it in the future. And Quentin, you've already started, what did you say, interview interface elements or something?
Well, so for example, it addresses what I think I've kind of gathered from our discussions about
Uh-huh.
collecting items in a list from the
Right.
things that you've said.
Yeah.
So it's really closely related to usability and readability. Whereas
Okay.
the coding stuff is about coders talking to coders.
Sure.
The other things are user facing. So it might even fit together after we've done the language guide to think about
Okay. Well,
Potentially.
so when we come up with, when we're doing language, inevitably you think of how do you ask this question? And then that would trigger the interactive feature. Like what's the best way? So for example, like those yes, no buttons is a feature versus radio buttons, but it's also you're thinking language. So that would definitely overlap with that. Okay.
I think there's another category thing I want to talk about, but that's okay. I can.
For the
Do you want to just, what is it? Do you want to say the heading of it,
sure,
just at least?
Sure, it's our abstractions for like our library that we're creating of it's for things like basic questions, which is shared functionality, right? Like where do we want to be flexible? How do we want to be flexible in which situations? That kind of thing that I think would be like, there are ways there are definitely things I've seen that I've wanted to be like, oh, I'll just tweak this, and then been like, no, that's a whole discussion, right? So
and it's like a basic question, and then really it needs to be decided.
I also want to change the name Basic Questions, but we can discuss that separately. I know names are hard, but and Basic Questions might end up being a great name in the end, but I just
so to sort of come after that, I think long term we probably want to take 209A out of MA Virtual Court.
Right, have its own repository.
Yeah, and
that's another good question.
Right.
And I think some of these may belong in the toolbox and stuff. Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that's a new discussion, right, Caroline, that you're bringing up. Yeah. I think it's a good idea. I don't know if someone has an idea. I think probably the way to do that is to fork our repository so that we can keep the commit history and everything. And it's by far the most commits for the 209A, so that might be helpful versus creating a new project and copying things in.
If you guys could figure out how to do the commit history, because that's what I'm trying to get our thing out of the MA Virtual Courts, but I'm worried about losing our history.
If you want, I can talk to you about that. If you want, I can talk, because that'll also let us clean out some of the files that like are just such a mess in there that we don't need anymore. Oh my God, there's like a million templates and stuff like that. I can do that fairly well. No, I guess I'd need some consultation to understand which files were. I can look at the includes. Honestly, I can look at the includes and stuff. And
I trust you probably could figure it out.
I don't know, whoever, it doesn't have to be me, but like,
so
that's a pretty easy.
And then renaming all the files so they kind of follow the same naming style.
Honestly, and that can be part of the style conversation, right? Renaming.
Yeah.
But is there a better way than forking that exists to keep the history? Because I think we shouldn't drop that.
No, forking. I think forking is the way to do it.
Forking is the way to go. Okay.
And then we can just transfer ownership. I bet like this is something that Mark could do pretty easily as well. Like if he's looking to contribute something, like he can look at includes and modules too, I'm sure, and set up the files that are necessary to keep on.
So I know he's taken on a big new responsibility, which is creating basically a DocAssemble class for the world to take online. So
really? Wow.
And he also has his class is also a mandatory one for students at his university.
It's so cool.
I want to talk to him about. I want to talk to him about his class. I have thoughts about how to introduce things like lists specifically in that context, but that's separate. But maybe Kendall then, or maybe Lily.
How is Kendall doing?
Kendall's out for the summer. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, I mean, it's not a bad
it's the summer.
It's
just the summer.
He's working hard.
No, he's got a really intense project he's working on for his internship. So that's Kendall's.
Sure. I was just thinking of ways we can include people who wanted to be included, but like stuff was too complex.
Yeah, I think Kendall and Lily are good for now. And Lily's working on this project, the LRF thing right now. So
so all right, never mind then. So we can pick one of us. That's fine.
I mean, if you want to
when's the timeline on that? Like before the eviction thing or after the eviction thing?
What are we talking about now?
The moratorium, eviction moratorium.
Are you talking about cleaning up the
repository and cleaning up like the 209A and getting it out of the repository?
I think the eviction's more important than that, because 209A is what it is and it's not going to change a lot, et cetera, et cetera. So
Okay.
Well, actually,
fine.
Kate's got some ideas we need to catch up on.
I mean, we can always pull it out at a different time as well.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I
not-
mean. It's not. I don't think
Okay.
that's urgent, but we just want to. We want that on our to-do list.
Okay, we might add that to the Trello or something. Okay.
Is there anything, I'm just very conscious of everyone's time. Is there anything that we need, pressing that we need to cover before the end of this meeting?
I had a question I wanted to ask about.
And we do usually think about forms for the next week.
Oh shoot,
Oh,
that's, yeah, I wanted to
that.
confirm what had been submitted and what, we've got a list of things that are kind of ready to be submitted, I guess. So what has been submitted to the courts? I mean, let's have a look at the triage form. David, I added in those forms at the bottom, I wasn't quite sure how you wanted them added. So I added from, I think it was from row 49.
Yep, that's what it looks like. And I think we were just we'll just say, just indicate that it's their own for our court ordering.
Yeah, so we just didn't put any court ordering in there. So, and then I just highlighted the domesticated animals petition as in progress. I need to actually check in with the two team members who are doing that one and see how they're doing on that. I know that it's bar exam stuff that's coming up, so it's might have taken a back seat at the moment. And then we've got Mike working on the motion to remove default and debt collection, which is 48. And then Quentin and I are meeting with him and Matt tomorrow to kind of figure out some of the things. Like there was one main thing that he'd done, that Matt had done, which was link docket numbers to specific things. So kind of like, I don't know how to describe this, but in South Africa, you have like your social security number will indicate your gender and your birthday and stuff like that. Yeah. And previously it indicated your race. Fun.
Your race?
Yeah.
Wow.
For apartheid.
Yeah.
So I think the docket, in a similar vein, the docket number that he's done, it indicates certain things about the case. But I'm not sure if this is going to stay true through all the courts and stuff like that. So that's just what we flagged to talk about tomorrow. And
for a subset of courts, that's the case.
Yeah, but I wasn't au fait with that whole thing, so I thought maybe we just bring in, and there were some other coding questions. So that's the main gist of it. Okay, and then what was the color for it's been sent to court?
If it's blue, it's been sent to court.
Okay. So we can, I mean, what do we think about?
So are there ones here that are ready for us? Other ones that are ready to send to court?
Yeah. I would say that the generic motion for family law is ready. We're having the third review of it.
And it's been tested and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, it's not necessarily a deal breaker for sending to the court, since we
right.
consider that in parallel.
Yeah.
But that's good to know. That is good.
A lot of the testing has been done for it, I think.
Tests for existing stuff. Like if people can give me paths, then I might be able to, I'm not sure the time availability of the people who can do tests, but I might be able to get actual tests started. And we're actually transitioning to Cucumber not transitioning, we're using Cucumber and Puppeteer and Chai. So like people will be able to use that simplified testing language. So that maybe makes it more accessible to other people. So to actually write automated tests, that we still need QA, but we won't have to run as much on QA. We can get much less. We can reduce the number of tests that are on QA so people can focus on the things that QA is good at, right?
So this is what I was going to ask you about, is this automated testing. So you said, where are we with, what's going on with automated testing now?
So automated testing can run when you push a branch. You have to set it up in your repository, but then it can run when you push a branch. And that's another reason to have like Suffolk Lit Lab create the repository because it can make the template for the repository that will already contain the stuff for the testing, so people don't have to think about it. And then you can use Cucumber, though I'm not sure how it'll get updates, but then you can use Cucumber. I wish we could make modules for that. We can use Cucumber to write the tests that will be run when the automatic action happens of running the tests when you push to a branch.
Do you have stuff up there that explains all this, or is
No, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're still
Right.
figuring out some of this stuff, how we want it to work.
Okay.
But we've got some functionality with Cucumber, so that we've started to build in, and I will port those changes. That's what we're working on at Code for Boston that we're transferring over to our repository.
so the concept is you just upload a repository and then you can just run a test and it'll test everything that needs to be tested?
No, you have to write the tests.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't just run. Though we
I
could
was
make- we
wondering
could
about
make
that. I was
some-
like, what?
we can make some kind of automation that does a thing that just like goes
I
through
see.
and
So
makes sure
you-
all the links are working and like all
Right.
the
So the
buttons
stuff
lead
that
somewhere,
I've done
but-
with you and Maeve and and Jody are
Mhm.
like, these are the questions. This is what you're looking for. So you still have to do that.
You still have to write. You
don't-
have to
you don't
actually
have to have
write the tests
people
that go.
run through the test itself. The machine will run through it.
I'll tell you about I'll tell
Okay.
you about more details later.
I
but
just
don't
I
think
didn't want
that's for now.
details. I just wanted to understand what it meant. That was all.
Okay.
I have to go, everybody.
All
I'll
right.
see you
Bye,
later.
Quentin.
Bye.
So, bye, Quentin. So just to finish up this meeting, the forms that I think the generic motion for family law, which is titled something else.
It's an emergency for temporary orders, I think.
Right.
Motion for, it's 15, motion for emergency temporary order in existing
Yeah.
case.
So that one I think we can send to the court this week. David, you're muted. I don't know if you're talking to us.
I'll just need to talk with Quentin to make sure it's over to the test server so we can share the link.
Perfect. So that can be this week's one. Civil action cover sheet. If we get a SME review and we do our review,
We're gonna try to do that by Wednesday.
yeah.
Did you get the sense that the motion to dismiss and vacate default judgment in the housing area has that been, I know they said they have to meet with Gordon and I have a couple of little things, but I think they've been testing it as well.
Yeah.
Do you know
have
where
been-
that is?
They have been doing testing, but not as rigorous as the generic motion for family law. So there's still some more testing. As David said, it's not a requirement for that to be, the testing can run in parallel to the submission to court. But they do need to do some more testing on that one.
I think that one's pretty close. I've looked at it a lot and it's just this one really ogre-like question that nobody can answer.
But both that one and the generic motion for family law have been through 2 reviews, number of SME reviews.
Yeah.
So they are kind of like the first ones through the assembly line, basically, so to speak.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I would say for the testing. I mean, I'd like to do some more testing on the housing one. I think that those 2 I'm the most confident in going to the court.
Which 2 again? Say again?
Row 15, which is the motion for emergency temporary order in existing case, and then the motion to vacate default judgment in the housing. So 24.
Yeah, we're 24. Okay, but the housing you want to do more testing.
Yeah, but as I said, I don't think the testing is. I don't think that's. I think it can go. I think it can go.
I think it's pretty close. They're going to try and meet with Gordon on Thursday morning for as an SME. So I think that will be good.
Yeah. So I think 15 first, and then 24 second, and then civil action cover sheet by next week, Monday.
Okay, and that's in keeping with what we wanted. And then is the default judgment for debt then sort of close by as well? That was next.
So that's what we are meeting with Matt tomorrow, but with Quentin and Mike. So hopefully we're kind of like almost there. It's a very simple interview. Like when Mike showed it to me, I was like, oh, this is cool. Just that little bit of a complex thing with the docket numbers. So I just want to iron that out.
And then if this means this is freeing any of the teams up, then they should get the complaint for the 258E.
Right. Okay. So we can then get Mia, Vinny,
which is not on this list, but I think was on an earlier list somewhere.
It was. But the thing is with the 25080, do you not want to come up with some guidelines about file naming and variable naming first?
Well, it would be nice.
I mean, I think we shouldn't delay it for that. I will say, I don't think
Should
we
or should not, Michelle?
We should not delay it for that.
Okay.
The way that people's schedules go, if we want to get these things out, we should just go ahead and get these
And we
things
only
out.
have these people for a short time. I guess that's the other thing.
Right.
We
We have people who will
always-
disappear
yeah.
in 2 weeks. So
Yeah, we can always do the files later, even if it
Yeah.
means, you know, kind of forking like the repository, deleting that repository, and then bringing back in. Like it's doable.
Yeah. I mean, we could even do it when we bring it in, right? When we start really working on it.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's a little bit harder, but yep, we can.
Okay.
as I always like to say, anything's possible given enough time and money.
Yeah.
Except accelerating a material object to the speed of light.
Well, I don't know. People are working on that.
Okay, so that sounds good. I think that we've got the outline for the next few days at least. Meeting wise, did we agree on Friday? Friday at 10?
Yes,
Coding.
for the
Friday at 10.
style.
Coding one.
And, yeah, and I dropped a link in the coding channel in the comments of Michelle's thread, and then threw another post up in the main thread saying there's a link in the thread.
Got it.
Right.
It'll make sense when you look at it.
If you want, I
like
can
my
change
phone.
that text to something more meaningful. I just wanted to get something up there. But
I think it's probably done its purpose.
okay,
Okay.
good.
Right, guys. It's been real. It's been fun.
Yes.
Great work, everyone.
I know, right?
It's amazing all the work that we've been able to do. I think that the key thing is we've got to work this transition right as we move
Yeah.
away from the summer and as
Yeah.
the court starts to open up more. So
Who said shush? Did anyone hear that?
no, it's
I heard
No,
this.
that's
I
in the
thought that was you,
background here.
Maeve.
I think David is saying some great
that was
things.
my little ones.
Oh,
Okay, there we go.
I was like, where's that coming from? Like Quentin has a neighbor that whispers to him like things when she walks past, and it's so loud. Like those microphones pick up so much. She's like, "Bye," but it comes across as like, "Bye." Yeah, very funny. Okay, so
yeah, I think so. This is super exciting, and
we've got to figure out the transition.
we have to, yeah.
make the most of our resources for the next few weeks.
I think documentation is key. We want to
I
make
think-
it so that our work is
yeah.
replicable.
I think some of the decisions about why I just feel like lawyers, you're kind of a group that keeps re-examining. You're not the only ones, but you definitely re-examine decisions. And if there's a reason there, then we don't have to rehash
the whole process for
reasons.
appeals.
Oh, well,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, we've gone through all this process to get the reasons from subject matter experts,
Absolutely.
you know, like I don't know, but I understand that that's a lot of documentation.
Well, I think everybody agrees with that because, you know, a lot of good lawyers, a case comes up, people go look it up. I mean, Kate doesn't know everything off the top of her head. She's always she says the statute says this. So you always go, that's your documentation. So everybody is on board with that, I think, Michelle.
Okay, so it's just not going to be per page. That is what you're saying. I wasn't sure. I did not understand. You said it was going to be a thing, and I don't know what that thing is. So
I think
I
the thing
thought
is
you were
that-
saying it'll be different, and I didn't know.
Yeah, so I think I think the run sheet is eventually where we're going to address it. And I think we might have to, we'll do a better job prospectively than we will retrospectively, but we can try to capture retrospectively some of the stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that's a good point. I think another way that we could possibly capture these is in issues. Going through that with Sinead and Finola today made me realize that was quite a good way to deal with this, especially as the transition starts happening. If people can start making issues on their repos, then one, it can capture the things that they get done, and two, it can capture things that they're not able to get to before they have to jump off. And
With the net,
Yeah, there might, if we do that, we might want to add a new tag or something so that when an issue gets resolved, that is one of these things like Michelle was talking about, like we made a value judgment or something, or judgment call.
it can just be
So
called
that-
a decision or like or a like rationale.
There's a very
I don't know.
particular type of decision, right? It's a judgment call decision,
Okay,
right? Where it's like
sure.
it could have gone either way. So someone had to make a judgment call. It wasn't like a clear
fair.
black and white.
Yeah.
This is the right way to do it.
That's fine. I wanted to say before I forget it some other time, with the next cohort that comes in, I think it might be a really good idea to get them started on GitHub a lot earlier.
Yeah.
So maybe one of the first things before they start coding is, or after the first lesson is, this is how you do GitHub and transfer your thing and make it
familiarize. I agree with
but
that.
then I need to organize my lesson. I'm sorry, I'm not a teacher, and like it.
Well, your first two videos are very helpful for people.
Okay.
And just follow the steps. So I think, I mean, I'm not even
Right.
sure. You know, when you tell people to read all this stuff, one thing to do is watch these two videos and try it out. You know, they just.
I mean, if
the
the
only thing about
videos,
that is they have to be able to transfer ownership to Suffolk, which that needs to be, you know, human.
if we feel the videos are clear enough step by step that people can actually follow the steps, then I suggest we have them watch beforehand and ask questions after.
Like a reverse
Okay,
classroom.
yes, Eric.
The
call on you.
the GitHub videos, I'm fresh off this problem. The videos are pretty long, and it's hard. It might be a turnoff to some people. To that, like, oh, that video's an hour. Nah, I won't use GitHub. I'll just send them the text.
So we might split it
And that's
into
what's happening.
multiple videos.
Or could we have timestamps with the steps? So you have
Sure.
steps that you want to do. You have your steps, like 1, open GitHub 2, and then you timestamp where that step starts.
Timestamps help, yeah. But there's
With
also a
that-
lot
I
of
think we-
casual chit chat and stuff in between, and then sometimes a whole nother thing starts, and I have to like skip ahead 20 minutes to get back to it.
Anything's
so
all-
true.
overtime will produce better. better training
Yeah,
materials.
Maeve, we at some point we talked about making an actual video, like sitting down and making it.
What about 5 minutes?
Eric,
Wonder
I wanna
video.
ask you though what your suggestion is. Like, what would make it more simple and like incentivize you more or motivate you more to listen? Like, what are your thoughts?
Like a short video with, this is what you can get out of GitHub. This is why it's useful. Look, you can share your code. Look, you can compare commits. You can merge, blah, blah. But without going into each step, just saying, here are the 3 main things we want you to use GitHub for.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Sort of
step
like
one,
the
this is-
beginning ones, the 5-minute ones that we have.
But just like really structured and compact.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the actual lesson will be a bit longer. Is that what you're saying, or because the how to do it is a bunch of steps, and I don't know how to like other than actually making it a tutorial. I think if
Yeah,
maybe
I
I
see what
can
you're
make it
saying,
tutorial, like there are a lot of steps that you have to take, right?
Yeah.
And then
But what you're saying is that like it'd be better to explain like here's the 3 main ways we want you to use GitHub, and then like, do separate. Are you suggesting that we do like then we would do a short video for like way number 1 and then a short video for way number 2? Like, or are you saying that we could
purpose
do
number 1 and
all of them in the?
You could do it in the same video file if you timestamp it. That's not the huge issue. The issue is I don't think people are very confident in what GitHub is used for, or like
It's
they
a
don't
scary
understand what's
space.
so good. And
yeah, they
that
don't see the reason
doesn't know
to
how
use it.
they're not motivated to use it.
Yeah, but it's such a useful tool, and I think that so basically what we want is kind of like those 5-minute tutorials that we had on how to set up Docassemble, how to
Yeah, the playground.
that one, like something like that, where you very very concisely get to the point, and there's no chit chat, there's no questions being asked and stuff like that. So you still got
we need to put some actual teaching materials together as opposed to just capture of our.
So maybe if you and I could sit down, if you could get us to arrange a time, then we can sit down and write up the material and then make a video. Maybe not all at the same time, but
okay.
And this should
because
also be
there's some of
coordinated.
this that I don't know that needs to be explained because I'm just familiar with it. So
And you should
Eric might
coordinate
be
with,
able to help
I
us
can
out
help.
yeah, and you should coordinate with Quentin because I think all of these materials eventually should end up in the tech book that he's putting together, the online tech book.
Right, because
Yeah,
that was
we
something
should
that
ask
we
him
were
if
trying to
there's
do was to
anything.
actually record stuff that we were incorporating into a video. We wanted to have a equal written documentation thing so that people can control find to easily access things. So basically have like it in a video showing someone how to do it, and then also have it in documentation. But yeah, I agree with Eric that the hour-long ones are off-putting and difficult when they're not timed.
yeah, And with all the questions among them, and with waiting for everybody to finish their task. Yeah.
Okay, so
It
we'll
was-
maybe
okay.
my week is looking now. It's getting busier and busier.
Mhm.
Let's.
It might not be a this week thing. I'm not sure this has to be a this week thing. I just want it to be in the calendar.
Okay.
It would be a good thing to have done when the next cohort comes in.
Absolutely right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Now people are getting familiar by themselves, and so it's not so pressing right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna just
Right.
set up this time. Okay. Right, that's all for me.
Yeah, I've got to jump to another call as well. So
Eric, thanks for staying on. It was really good to have.
good work. Yeah.
And
And it was
helpful.
very
Good
useful.
contributions.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Contributions.
Okay, I'll see you guys
All
tomorrow.
right. See you guys tomorrow.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.